Hello internet, and today I've got for you a tier list. It's been a while since I was taking a look at Pritwin's tier list. Last time it was Changli, and since then we had Xiangli Yao, we had Shorekeeper, we also have currently the newest addition in the game, we got Youhu. And let's go ahead and take a look at what Pritwin has decided to rank everybody, and I'll give my opinion as well as to how the meta is going right now for every character, right? So to start the tiers, it's pretty standard, like the higher the tier, the better they are. And they're separated to 3 different classes here, DPS, Hybrid, and Support, which should make sense what they are. Hybrid is basically a combination of DPS and Support. They do some damage, they support as well. Support gets you buff, DPS does damage. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start. And again, disclaimer, these are all just an opinion from Pritwin. Like, you know, if you have a different idea, feel free to disagree, but I hope you keep it civil. And yeah, let's start with tier 0. These are the meta definers, the strongest characters in the game. And we see DPS being Jinxie. That's obvious as hell, right? Jinxie's just the strongest character. Like, since the start of her release till now, she's still incredibly OP. The damage you can bring is incredible. There's a lot of teams that you can use her with. Free to play or whale, both are just as good. 3 starting tower diversity with her is no problem for sure. And yeah, who knows? Maybe like she'll still be here for a while. I don't see her being power crept anytime soon. Even with like the future, maybe Camilla coming in. I just can't imagine if there's a day Jinxie becomes not good. Like imagine what about the rest of the characters we have, right? So I think Jinxie, if you have her, dude, rejoice. She's just insane even right now. Been that way for a while. And in terms of hybrid, what I see that's a bit unique is, well, not really unique. I think it's the same since like forever. We got Yinli, we got Jeji, which Yinli, we all know how good she is as like a support. One of the best in the game. And Jeji, same as well. They also do a lot of damage as well, which fit the hybrid role. They're like a sub DPS slash support with a lot of buffs. And in their best team, they are going to tear through tower diversity, no problem. They don't want to stand on the field for too long as well. And yeah, overall, they're just the person who breathes life into your team because they get concerto energy quickly. They get you the buffs that your main DPS need to like stand on field and do a bunch of damage, right? Very valuable characters in my opinion. And yeah, if you have them, congratulations for you. So up to this point, it's like the same thing that we've already seen. So I'm not going to harp on them too much. The next class though for tier 0, we have someone new in Shorekeeper. Now, genuinely, is anyone surprised, right? Shorekeeper being one of the best characters, best buffers, along with Verena. Although if you really compare the two of them, a player that's really good with Verena can actually be faster compared to Shorekeeper. Just for the lack of like animations, just for the how Verena can like cancel animations a lot, and the way you can like get concerto energy up really quickly. It's slightly faster if you can use a good Verena, in my opinion. The value of the damage increase, though, certainly are different. One gives you stats with Shorekeeper's crit rate, crit damage. Verena doesn't give that. But if you have a good stat line anyway, Verena just gives you damage amplification, which straight up, they both give you a lot of value. Let's just say that. So yeah, pretty obvious why we see Shorekeeper in the support role tier 0. And dude, like if you miss Shorekeeper, it is just... You fumbled the bag, dude. That's all I can say. I think she's a must pull for anybody. And she's gonna be around for, I think, ever. I don't see a day where Shorekeeper is bad. I might see Verena being replaced maybe. But even if they're replaced, like they'll just be T0. That's how strong this support healer role is in the game. And especially these two being like one of the rarest AoE buffers. I think there's only 3 in the game, including Baiju later on. But yeah, those are the tier 0s, and quite genuinely speaking, we see these characters like every version. They're always here. Not much like changes to them. But moving forward though, there are going to be a bit of changes, I believe. Well, a bit of interesting one at least. You go tier 0.5. And yeah, there's no support being ranked in this tier, which that's fair enough. We don't really have that many supports anyway. But yeah, there's a lot of DPSs though. Now, they single out Jinxie at tier 0, but then in tier 0.5, we see a bunch of DPS here. So let's go through all the DPSs and take a look at what they're all about. Firstly, we have Changli here. Now, actually, for me, Changli feels like a hybrid. I don't think she is more a DPS because her buffs are still there, right? The ultra skill that she has is still there. Although she does quite a bit of damage, but is it enough to call her a main DPS? I personally don't think so, but Mass might prove me otherwise. But in the end, it's irrefutable, right? She has an ultra skill that buffs your next ally. So that's why you see some people pairing Changli with Encore being the main DPS that stands on field the longest. That's the thing with Changli though. The reason why she's not like tier 0 is because firstly, there's not a perfect ally yet for her to utilize her buffs. And secondly, her entire role is just a bit jumbled up. She needs to stand on field for quite a while actually, compared to someone like Jeji, compared to someone like Yinlin that's more sub DPS supporting rather than actual main DPS. But at the same time, she has this outro skill that you want to get quickly so you can have your main DPS fully benefit from that, like you would do with a standard sub DPS support in like Sanhua, yeah? But given though her numbers are still great, which is why she is 0.5, and I think that is the same since her release, so yeah, nothing much to say. But hey, in the future, if they start releasing better characters, better main DPS that can utilize her, I think she'll just shoot up tier 0 for sure. But not quite so right now. And yeah, that will be for Changli. Moving on, we see Encore, which Encore's just the standard good DPS, like even still now. And it's just pure numbers. Her numbers are really good. She has good ways, if you master her, she has good ways for you to swap cancel. She has good ways for you to cancel animation as well. There's a lot of like skill-based things that you can maximize with Encore, which makes her potential so high. So yeah, for her numbers to be convincing enough to be at tier 0.05, for me is fair. So I agree. She should be here, and she has been here for a while. Moving on with our GN, which since the patch of Changli, he has already dropped from tier 0 to tier 0.5, I believe. So yeah, these days though, I feel like GN simply doesn't do more damage than Jinsei. So can I say he's tier 0? Not quite, but is he bad? Absolutely not. That's why he has a tier 0.5 place here. He still does really good damage. Single target wise, still definitely not better than, you know, Jinsei. And Encore with Yinlin's weapon can actually match GN's DPS's output. But given Encore is more like a single target nuker with GN being an AoE type of person. So yeah, he's still the guy that isn't weak at all. The fact that he's AoE with his ultimate and doing so much damage that even matches one of like the, you know, single target cleavers in Encore with the best possible setup, right? Just goes to show you how strong GN is. Not to mention, you know, in an AoE setting, he's just unmatched. Gather everyone up. No one else can do as good a job as GN could with that. So there we have it. GN's right here at tier 0.5. Moving on with Xiangliao. I'm gonna be real, I didn't even play when Xiangliao got released. I don't know how incredible he is, but from what I've heard, right? He's just a Calcharo, like a better Calcharo. It's an electro element DPS, a main DPS at that you need to stand on field and do damage. And he just does it good. And the fact that he does it good, well, he deserves tier 0.5. Replacing any form of way where Calcharo is going to be in this slot for sure. Because same element as well. The Calcharo is not eating it well, in my opinion. And yeah, that will be for the 4 DPSs we have at tier 0.5. Let me know what you think though. I think it's pretty interesting that they single out Jinsei on top. But I think that is still totally like understandable. Jinsei's just a tier above everyone else. The damage you can do is incredible, and I don't see her being power crept. And for tier 0.5 though, will they be power crept? I actually think yes, eventually they will. While even Jinsei 5 years later, if we're not EOS, of course she's gonna get power crept. Someone's gonna be better in my opinion, but that's too far in the future, right? I think for now, with the trajectory of the game, there's not gonna be too crazy of power creeps. It exists though. For the most part, I think all the DPS are still quite strong. It's got a 30 strong, no problem, so pretty good there. Moving forward, we're going to move from the DPS class to the hybrid class now. These are the sub DPS that support in tier 0.5. We still have more Tefi Sanhua. Been that way for a while now, and well, the only reason why they're not tier 0 is because Yinlin or Jeji exists that just simply has better numbers in my opinion. Otherwise, they're still top tier. Especially at S6, I'm willing to even put Sanhua at tier 0 at S6. So yeah, there you have it, right? Like, keep in mind as well, these are S2, basically Chain 2 or Wave Band 2. It's 2 dupes unlocked, yeah? So not the max potential yet. So with that, they're tier 0.5. Fair enough, I think. Which, hey, if you can S6 it with the battle right now, which they're both rated up on in GN's rerun, if you're pulling it, this is a chance for you to pick those 2 up. Really valuable. And those are the tier 0.5 characters. Overall, I think satisfactory, right? People who did invest in certain battles before don't just die totally. So I'm happy with that. It's not like just patch after patch, you just instantly get power creep completely. That would be the actual nightmare. So glad that's not the case here. Moving on though, we have tier 1. This is where we see the new addition to the game. We got Youhu, right? But first, let's talk about the DPS slot. We got Havoc Rover. Now, Havoc Rover at S3 only, yeah? So at S6, I think he or she is going to be easily tier 0.5. But at S3, yep, you're gonna be lacking some numbers. At S6 though, I believe you get 25 crit rate, I'm pretty sure. But you get crit rate when you're in your Dark Surge state. That's gonna be contributing to a lot of stats, a lot of DPS increase, right? So for now at S3, we haven't got all the available wave fan released yet. So fair to say you're at tier 1 here. Still really good. One of the best solo characters actually if you don't know who to build and you want someone that could clear every mob, like the starting stages of TOA. Just use your Habit Rover. You don't even need insane gears on. It's not going to do a better job than like GN could, but you could still solo it if you have good mechanics or say if you have good stats. Habit Rover can just solo everything. Easy to use as well. Basic. And use your E until you get your max forte. Hold your charge attack, get your Dark Surge state, and just DPS away. Straightforward, strong, tier 1 is fair enough. And yeah, impressively enough, one of the rarest cases where the main character is good. We've got it in Wuwa here, guys. Moving on though, we have the support class now. Here we see tier 1, 2 of them. We got Byaiju, we got Youhu. Now Byaiju, we all know how she works, and the reason why she's not higher is because, you know, lack of better healing in my opinion. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she's up more like tier 0.5 because there's no other options. Like who else does AoE damage increase, right? Nobody. So for her to be tier 1, I still think it's fair, especially at only wave fan 2. Yeah, nothing much about Byaiju, but like she's always been here, always been the lower replacements of the 5-star variants of similar role. But this will be the interesting one. We got Youhu. Now Youhu at S2, you get RNG factor to the first chain, the first wave band. The second wave band though makes the damage of your triplet perfect rhyme, basically the heavy attack after you get your 4 symbols, double it, right? The damage bonus is double. That is a lot of damage increase actually, but given even in the end, like Youhu herself is just not gonna be the person that nukes the enemy for 60k damage, right? Honestly, with this and a well-built Youhu, you might reach that point, which does actually give her an edge over any other support because none of the other supports does damage like Youhu could. Like her boost of damage is quite immense, right? If you get 1 pair, I believe, you get 75% damage bonus on the heavy attack. If you get a 3 pair, you get 175% damage increase. And at chain 2, you double that amount. It's a lot of damage, actually. It's going to be akin to like an actual Sanhua nuke, a really good Sanhua nuke that she can do without even needing too much of like an effort. And especially if you can get 4 of a kind, you get all the benefits, even the vibration strength reduction increase, even the healing increase for your entire team. Although she cannot do AoE buffs with the outro skill like say Verena can, her damage alone and her healing, the versatility as a whole puts her at tier 1, I think is fair. Now given as well on Yuhu's best setup, I believe would be a team with Shorekeeper, Youhu, and Yinlin. Shorekeeper buffing the whole team, Youhu into Yinlin with Yinlin be the main DPS. Now certainly it's not the team that's gonna out DPS a Jinxie team. It's not a perfect team after all, but the numeric value in terms of those buffs are actually pretty high. Otherwise you can do with a good old replace Verena with Youhu so we can use Verena in some other slots. A team with Youhu, Jeji, and Jinxie can still 3-star any TOAs and work just as fine. You're gonna do less damage if compared with having Verena, but still gonna be decent damage that you can 3-star easily. But yeah, the main up point would be you can replace like the Shorekeeper that you want to use on some other stage or Verena that you want to use on some other stage with Youhu. For that, I think that's pretty damn great. So tier 1 seems fair to me. You're not tier 0.5 for the lack of AoE buffs in my opinion. But yeah, overall, I'm happy to have 4 stars that actually is quite relevant. I love Yuhu's like entire mechanics. So beautifully ranked in my opinion. I agree fully. That'll be for tier 1. Moving on, we see tier 1.5, and yeah, this is where it starts getting like about the same. It's always the same bottom barrel feed. Let's not say that, right? Let's not be that negative. It's always the same case lower down here because we see tier 1.5, we got Calcharo, got Danjin for DPSs. Now this is the same as like a month or 2 before when Chang-Li dropped and I reviewed the tier list. It's about the same. Calcharo, we all know his issue. Like it's really hard for him to get his DPS window to be smooth. You need to make sure you land all of your attacks, all of your heavy attacks during the ultimate, but then the boss will never just sit there and let you do it. And if you have to evade, you lose that little bit of 2 seconds that you need to make sure you land all the heavy attacks. Therein lies where you miss a lot of DPS. That is always the problem with him, and if you miss a lot of hits as well, you don't get your next ultimate. It's really annoying to handle. That's why he's tier 1.5. And you know, nail in the coffin, you get Xiangli Yao that can pretty much just void any reason to make Calcharo your only lightning DPS, given Xiangli Yao is a gosh a free character. Yeah, not a good look for someone like Calcharo. I hope something changes. I don't know if they ever buff characters. They've never done it so far after release. So would Calcharo ever have like some love? I'm not sure, but this actually doesn't bode well in my opinion, just in terms of logic, because think about this. We don't even know what Calcharo's deal is in the story. Like, we don't know. We haven't seen him. We haven't got any companion missions, no stories. We just don't know what his deal is at all. And he already got power creep from tier 0 at the start of the server to now tier 1.5, which, yes, power creep does exist every game. But unfortunately for Calcharo, he's one of like the worst victims here. Like, a pretty big fall off, right? Is he unusable? Absolutely not. If you're skilled enough, you can still use him like a tier 0.5 character, in my opinion. But yeah, you gotta evade really well, you gotta time your stuff really well, you gotta make sure you have enough energy regen, and honestly, you gotta pick the right enemies, if anything. Otherwise, if they just fly around, Calcharo's out, it's just gonna run out, yeah? So that's the deal with Calcharo, in my opinion. Moving on, we do have Donjin. Now, Donjin, especially at Chain 2, Wave Band 2, I'm not sure how you guys call it, not max Chain Resonance, yeah? If it's not max, it's not gonna be like, you know, the premier tiers. After all, they are still just 4 stars. But Donjin being one of the best pairings with Havoc Rover is still gonna be pretty good. Is she gonna be like tier 0.5, tier 0? Not quite. Can I move her up to tier 1? I can't say as well, because can I replace her for someone else and make Havoc Rover just as good or better? Absolutely, yeah. I think like if I just use a Sanhua, the fact that I'm just like cycling the windows so easily and I don't have to be at 1 health, overall the benefits might just match using Donjins for her like elemental damage bonus. Basically, yeah, Donjin is not the character that you have to build, which is why she's not that high up in my opinion. Not to mention the whole 1 HP thing, right? You gotta be low health, although that's like a skill issue thing. And with that, we have the end of tier 1.5's DPS. Moving on, we see hybrids, and honestly, not much to say about this guy. It's just Yuanwu. The only real use for him is as Jinxi's coordinated attack like fodder. You're feeding Jinxi with a lot of coordinated attacks through Yuanwu. She also has vibration strength reduction. I like my boy Yuanwu, but honestly, it doesn't really do too much because it's not that big of an increase, right? You would probably see the same if you have a team that can trigger intro outro skill quickly. You still shred that bar really quickly even without this whole vibration strength increase, right? But is he like terrible? No. Is he great? Also no. But in one scenario, he's insane with Jinxi, yeah? But yeah, moving on. Tier 2. It's the similar suspects, I think. We got Xixia. Honestly, I don't think Xixia should be this low. I think she could... Okay. Actually, let me take that back. At Chain 2, she is definitely this low. I think at Chain 4, if she gets their Chain Resonance that allows her to gain her full Forte bar upon using her ultimate, that's when she can easily get up to tiers 1.5. Her damage is pretty impressive, and there are people using her to clear the hardest overdrive mode. I can't do it though, but someone out there can, so she's a pretty good DPS, right? Is she meta defining though? Definitely not. And then we have Ling Yang. I mean, he's been at the bottom, like near the bottom, almost every version. Not changing now though. We don't really have a support specifically for Ling Yang that just breaks the game yet. So yeah, nothing much to say about him. He's got some problems. Her numbers are not that high. His evading a bit clunky, movement's a bit clunky, especially after using her Forte and all. But, you know, I still see people playing Ling Yang and still 3-star TOA. It does not really matter in the end. It matters more about how much investment you put in it, right? But in terms of just ease of use, Ling Yang's not going to be the highest one out there that I suggest you to use if you're not like a really good player, in my opinion. Can you use him though still? Yeah, in the end, use what you like, eh? Moving on, we have the hybrids for tier 2. We got Alto, we got Light or Spectral Rover. I'm going to be real, I don't have much to say about Alto. I've used him, but I haven't used him to like clear bosses and all. But his entire gimmick is about taunting the enemy with his shadow clones and then doing damage as well by shooting through the gate and all of that. All in all, the question here is like, is his numbers high enough? And straight up, I don't think so. He does have an interesting gimmick with guaranteed crits on one of his hits, but that is just not enough for him to be the premier DPS because he does have an outro skill that boosts someone like Jiyan. So yeah, he's not really a main DPS. His Concerto energy regain is not the highest either. Therefore, as a hybrid character that doesn't want to stand on field too long and you want to buff your main DPS quickly, he can't quite do it effectively or efficiently enough, especially at Chain 2. Tier 2 seems fair to me, but hey, if you're an Alto main, share down below. Maybe we don't know enough about Alto, right? And then we have Spectral Rover. This we do have S6 of. Simply put, jack of all trades, master of none. Not doing enough damage to be called a good damage dealer, not healing enough to be a healer, not really providing enough utility to be called a pure support and all that, right? But he or she can do quite a lot of things though. including time slow, which is not something everyone can do. In fact, no one else can do that. But the time slow isn't like too impactful to my experience. So yeah, tier 2 seems fair. No one's really using Spectral version. Always Havoc in my opinion. So fair enough. Moving on, we have Yang. And with Yang, especially at chain 2, not going to be that high damage dealer, right? You have the energy regen on the outro skill, but then again, it's much better to just make sure you have enough energy regen to begin with your stat line. I think every DPS, you don't even need that much. You just have to hit enough. Like 150 energy regen, 130 energy regen. That's usually enough for you to like maintain the cycle, rather than hoping for an outro skill to do it for you. That's how I see it. But hey, she is also a really good GN replacement though for TOA solo, right? I use her as a TOA solo for sure. She does the job, right? Is she doing an insane job though? At chain 2, definitely not. But at chain 6, she could actually be quite devastating in terms of like the damage she does. But we're talking about chain 2. I think it's about time they increase the chains though, because we are playing the game for long enough. But hey, maybe next version they will. Moving on with tier 3, they have somehow a whole tier for our girl Taochi. I still am gonna say I don't think she deserves a whole tier herself. Like, is she that bad? I use her. Her damage are not insane. Her utility is certainly not that good. The way she obtains Concerto is also a bit clunky. She swings pretty slow with her like weapon as well, right? So certainly a character with some issues, but giving her own tier 3, that's like a blast, I think. Yeah, that's a bit too much, right? At least give her tier 2. I feel like it's fair to call her tier 2. She's still the character that has somewhat of a support with outro skill. The shield is pretty thick, but then again, in the proper end game though, I can see why shielding and all, it's not really that valuable. The shield just breaks instantly, right? If a boss swings you, you get 1 HP sometimes. So sometimes, in my opinion, it's just better to heal up and then get hit, get to the red, heal up again. The shield is good, but you know, you gotta have the trigger conditions met, yeah? And with Taochi, you gotta land your counter as well. Not that easy, you gotta really time your stuff well. So with that, she's tier 3. I suppose it's agreeable, but I would just put her tier 2 and call it a day. Make it only tier 2 in the end, right? So yeah, that is all for the tier list. I think Camilla's gonna be tier 0 for sure. Like, it's a hyped up character, of course it's gonna be. Maybe she won't though, who knows? But for now, I don't think the power creep situation is too crazy. Except for only Calcharo. I don't know why, but they never even released Calcharo in the story yet. We don't know what his deal is. He's already got replaced fully by someone like Xiang Liao. Not gonna be a good experience for Calcharo users, right? But for anyone else at all, you almost have a person that is still very relevant, no matter what your account's looking like, right? So yeah, happy with the game state. They're always trying their best to listen to our opinion and then actually putting in action, right? So kudos to Kuro Game so far. I'm loving the game right now. And that'll be all. Let me know what you think. And as usual, keep it simple if you can. And yeah, that's all. Take care.